Morning.
Am I still on here? I think so. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so some of you were here for the first service, and if you missed this, okay, we're going to go over the same things. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Awesome. Same things in the following service. So the worship service. If you missed what we just did, no worries. We're going to go over the same kind of stuff. I'll try to be very respectful of your time today. So when you're talking about using technology within a godly home, it's a very broad subject. So I want to get as much information and maybe some education to bring some people up to date on some things. And then just how can we apply it? Well, here in Sunday school, in service, it's going to be a lot of info. And so just really fast. I'm typically a pretty fast talker anyways, but in this time, we're going to take it maybe a little bit slower, and then we're going to have a Q&A time. So this is just focused on being really practical, and you say, hey, well, I have some questions, or maybe you have some thoughts of some things where we may cover it in the next service. So just be maybe a little mindful of that. There's a common flawed perspective today about young people and technology. The facts remain the same, but it comes with an improper perspective. And here's what it is. Young people know more so they know way more about technology than older people. How many of you would agree with that statement? On average, young people know way more about technology than older people. Yes. Okay. So just the fact that I'm the one holding an iPad means that some older person may hand me their cell phone and say, "Can you fix this?" Okay. it's just you would think that. And yes, the facts are likely true, but I believe it's usually because of the wrong perspective. And I'll come back to that in a minute. There was a group of 9th grade students, this was actually a few years back, who were being transparent about their parents' knowledge of social media. They were told to write down, one thing my parents don't know about social media is, and write their answer. So they asked 120 students, 85 of them responded. Wow, that's a lot of answers. I'm going to go over just a few of them. One thing my parents don't know about social media is that I actually have one. Oh, wow, starting out. Good. One thing that my parents don't know about social media is how to find my pictures. One thing my parents don't know is that I don't really need it. I just don't want to lose my snap streaks. Okay, some of you that know Snapchat know what that means. So no, I don't really need Snapchat, but I don't think I could give up my snap streaks. Okay, it's a trendy thing. Okay, it is what it is. One thing my parents don't know about social media is that I'm on it 2 a.m., until 2 a.m. every day.
Oh no.
One thing my parents don't know about social media is we create spam accounts to post weird pictures of ourselves. Okay.
Wow.
One thing my parents don't know about social media is there's a lot of cyberbullying. People don't care about you. One thing my parents don't know is that anyone can access it, including drug dealers, pedophiles, criminals. One thing my parents don't know about social media is how easy it is to access anything. So don't kid yourselves. It is true. They know more about this than you do. For some of you older folks that may feel a little more disconnected. But here's the flaw, okay? It's not because they're younger. It's not because, okay, so you can't hide behind the idea we can't teach an old dog new tricks. They've invested time to learn it, and maybe you haven't. So it's not because they're younger that they know about all the platforms and they can fix your phone and they can do this and they can do that. They were not born with that skill. You were not born with the skill set that you have. They've taken the time to learn it. They personally would feel that it is important enough to learn how to use their technology to whatever ways they want to use it. And so maybe our perspective shouldn't be, well, young people know more about it than older people, but maybe it should be young people care to learn about it more than older people. The honest perspective would be young people believe that knowing technology is important more than older people do. But that's something that anyone can work on. So if you haven't asked someone or haven't searched on Google, well, what is Snapchat streaks? Okay, I know I mentioned that. Okay, if you haven't put forth effort to learn, then I would question your effort on, like, you can't complain and say, well, I would do this if I just knew more about it, when you haven't put forth the effort to learn more about it. And so that's, part of your pastor's heart of just bringing in some people to bring some information to help you. That's great, but, and I want to help you, but it's going to take a personal effort for you to go beyond this service or beyond today with some of this information. So here's what we're going to be discussing today. Here we go. So in Sunday school, we're going to discuss, this is going to be a lot more practical, and then in the service, it's a ton of information with just a spiritual challenge. And we went a little bit over in the first service. We'll try to be a little bit faster in the next service. And this service, this class, we'll go pretty fast and then have a time for Q&A. We're going to just talk about some communication, online safety, some ways to establish accountability. Hey, how do you block certain things? What are some services that'll help you with that? What should you allow? And those kind of things. And then just some best practices. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. First of all, we're going to talk about communication. What should you be saying? This is without an app, without a smartphone, without a subscription. This is, what kind of communication should you have within your home? And a lot of our content today is going to be geared more towards maybe families or families with young people. But a lot of these things are things that we can apply across the board. So what kind of conversations should you have within a godly home? Well, let me start off by saying this. Difficult conversations should not and will not happen if your communication is not often and supportive. I'm going to say that one more time, and then we'll keep going. Difficult conversations should not and will not happen if your communication is not often and supportive. So sometimes you think, well, how do I have a conversation about internet activity? How do I have a conversation about, hey, I don't feel good about this app, or what do you use that for? And maybe it's awkward, or maybe it's confrontational. How do you do that? Well, you're not going to get the right time and the right situation to do that if you're not having other stronger communications as well. This means your communication should be more than just those kind of deeper conversations. This was the area personally that my parents, and specifically my dad, probably struggled with the most. And thank God for my dad. I have a great relationship with him today. He's serving at a church in Virginia, man of God. I still love what he's doing to lead our family towards God. Great man. But here's a struggle, okay? And there's a lot of different lifestyles and people in this room today. But you have a heart, let's just say you have a heart, you have an intent to serve God. What are some things that good people mess up? Yeah, people that don't care, we know that's going to cause problems. But people that care, people that are trying, what problems do they have? And that would be the situation in my household growing up, is we didn't have a lot of time with my father. And because of that, I was not going to bring up or allow the limited time with him to be about awkward or uncomfortable or things that I felt like if I asked, I might just get preached at, or I might just get, my face ripped off or whatever. So those conversations didn't happen. Why? Because I wasn't having any other conversations, or very few. So, hey, if you're having just very limited time, maybe with your kids or grandkids, that does not provide the opportunity for you to dive into some of these deeper things. So what do you need? Well, you need to have other conversations. Well, what does that look like? Your regular discussion should include talking about their personal care and well-being. Okay? How are you? How's it going? How's school? And not just, well, how was school today? Good. Okay. Check. All right. But have some conversation where it's just about that. Some conversation about topics of their personal interests. Hey, you like this sports team? You like fishing? You like whatever? You like going and doing this? You like reading these kind of books? You like playing these kind of video games? Whatever the personal interest of this person would be. And try to relate and find some things that you mutually like together. You should have conversations about some learning moments. Hey, here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. Great. And then some more personal questions and struggles. Hey, son, daughter, hey, we're just looking into some things, and we want to talk to you about, maybe how we feel about honoring God with a certain act, and having, deeper conversations. Hey, we're trying to set up accountability in our house, and so we're going to, set up some things to where we can share internet activity, and this is to protect you. And having those conversations. Have you looked at these kinds of things? I'll be careful with some of the words I say. But have you been involved with these kinds of things? Hey, this morning in the worship service, Ryan, the guy up there, mentioned some apps. Did you know all of those? Have you been on all of those? Some of those things. And having those just open conversations. You're not going to get there if you're not communicating about some other things. And so if you have strong communication within your home, a lot of the other things are going to be a lot easier. But if you don't have strong communication, most of the other things we talked about aren't going to help you as well. And so may that just be kind of a foundation. Now we're going to talk about some online safety. Online safety. First, we need to understand this. Anyone can be deceived or manipulated online. Everybody say that together. Anyone can be deceived or manipulated online. Anybody. Now, some people are maybe less likely to fall into that than others, and okay. But what are some main things that we need to do to make sure we stay safe online? And we're going to talk about just a few things. Obviously, there's a lot, but some things that we ought to consider. First off, conversations with strangers. Like, oh, well, that's strange danger. I learned that when I was in first grade, and we went to the grocery store, and my mama told me, hey, why don't you not go to the other aisle and talk to people, or whatever it would be. But some people may not realize how prominent starting or having conversations with strangers would be. Chatting online with people that you don't know or shouldn't trust. This stat I ran across not too long ago, 30% of young people, this would count as probably teenagers, we would say, 30% of young people are communicating with people online who they don't know. 30%. And some of you are like, oh, 30%, well, odds are my kid is in the 70s. Okay. But odds are of the teenagers that went to camp last week, maybe some older kids in junior church or wherever their classes would be. So you think, oh, wow, that's more of a realistic problem. So don't just maybe assume that, well, in all these stats, your kid is on the better half. Yeah. Why would you just assume those things? Have those conversations. Amen. Now, these people aren't all dangerous. Okay? They're not. But it is a serious issue. Now, there's an app, and we didn't talk about it in the last service, called Omegle. Some people say Omegle, whatever, but anyways, Omegle. And here's what it is. So, and I'm not totally against everything that it does, but the idea is it's a video chat, like you FaceTime people, whatever. And in the video chat, you open up, and then it randomly selects someone else on the internet and pairs you. And the idea, you're like, Ryan, that's crazy. Why would anyone do that? And they push this idea that you're going to do it, and somebody that's like a celebrity is just going to Oh yeah, you just keep doing it, and you're going to get this perfect match. And someday, Justin Bieber's going to show up on the other side of my screen. And they post a recording of some celebrity, or there's people that they'll like do some kind of rap, or they'll write a song on the spot for the person on the other side, and it's like, oh, that's so great. And that's the idea, but the safety behind it, your name's not posted, your location's not posted. Okay, so are you in immediate physical risk? No. But communicating, especially over video, which is even worse. I mean, text is bad enough. But with a stranger, there are, right now, it has become very popular for a drag or trans, whatever, where people will pop up and they'll try to convince you that they are a gender that they're not. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's kind of the idea behind this. Communicating with strangers, big issue, something you need to be careful about for your online safety. Another thing, online gambling. Hey, this is not new, but stuff can start out small and innocent. Oh, it's just for fun, but this can lead to life-wrecking problems. Be careful there. Spammers and hackers. Now, not every scam is a real threat, okay? Not every time you get a text message that has a link, says, I have all of your, this information, and if you want me to not send it to all of your contact list, then forward $10,000 to this account. Okay, probably not legitimate. But there are some legitimate risks, and so you do need to be careful there.
Right.
Yeah.
What about Peruvian king that needs $5,000 to get back into this?
Yes, okay. So there is almost no one that you know that's going to digitally contact you and ask you for money.
Okay. It's my family.
It's
my uncle.
So most of the time, no one's going to contact you from a random phone number and say, you need this. A random message, whatever, an account that has no Facebook friends messaged you and said, okay, so be careful about some of those kind of things for sure. Okay, we're going to keep going. Here we go. So we talked about communication, some online safety. We're going to talk about some internet filters, accountability apps. All right, so there's a number of options for this, for a personal device or maybe your family's devices. So I'm going to mention a few here. And I put some links on here, and if we need to make these available, we can definitely do that with Pastor. That's definitely available. We're going to just talk about these. So number one, Covenant Eyes. Okay, Covenant Eyes is the name of a specific app, okay, or service. It is the most popular service for filtering your internet. It's great for blocking inappropriate content and in creating an accountability report, whatever meets your needs the best. They have two apps. One is its own browser. You block other browsers. Its own browser. And then there's another app that is for the accountability partner, which is a lot of times a spouse or a parent or however that would get set up. And I very much am for the people at Covenant Eyes and what they're doing and their mission behind just trying to keep content that is inappropriate out of our lives. And so good for blocking, good for accountability, and it's paid. It's not super expensive. You can get a 30-day free trial using just like my last name, Longo. I have a code right here, and I don't make a ton of money off this or anything like that, but it's just trying to help you. Hey, what fits for you? And so that's why I wanted to make these kind of things available. Another good option, if you're looking for maybe just a little bit cheaper of an option, would be NetNanny. And NetNanny is used just for blocking. So, hey, we don't have all this accountability, all these reports, all this tracking, but if you just, hey, I'm going to block this, I'm going to block this, I'm going to block NetNanny might be a good option for that. And I tried to list some prices so you can kind of gauge, okay, what would maybe be a good fit for me, what not. I super love the company Ever Accountable. And Ever Accountable isn't trying to do a ton of blocking, but it's just keeping someone accountable for their activity. And most of the time, that's enough. So most of the time, someone's not going to go to a certain site or whatever if they know that their accountability partner, their parent, their whoever, is immediately going to be notified. So usually accountability is going to be enough, and it's just a great option there. We're going to keep going. What about some free options? What can I do today that doesn't cost me anything? There are a lot of things that you can do for free. We talked about this a little bit in the last service, but you can look into like within apps or on-device restrictions that they're built in. Again, these companies have spent billions of dollars on these services so that you can use some of these extra features. You can block safe search, which blocks like adult content on search engines. That's super helpful. You can, within your phone carrier, you can maybe set some restrictions. I know for me, within my home internet, like on the Wi-Fi side, I can set some restrictions. Something super cool that we do, so my daughter, she's 4 years old, has a TV in her room. Okay, but listen, they're like, well, I don't know how I could monitor that, and what if they get up in the middle of the night? You know, included in my Wi-Fi, thank you AT&T, I can turn off, I can schedule when it's allowed internet. So, well, what can she do in the middle of the night if she learns how to do the remote? Absolutely nothing. So you're like, oh, you can just like block internet on certain devices at certain times, so you're not so worried about, well, what happens when you're asleep or in another room or what? Yes, those features are available. And so whatever those things might be for you, look into them, and most, if you can think of it, they can usually set it up that way, or there's already service to help you with that. So those are just some helpful tips there. We're going to keep going. Some best practices for tech at home. Okay, what are some good habits or best practices we can bring into our homes? Number one, I think, amazing thing to do, plan time off. So, hey, each day at a certain time, or maybe it fluctuates a little bit, but hey, we're just not going to be on certain parts of technology for certain times. And I am not the person that says, because the screen is going to kill your eyes and it burns your brain cells. And okay, there's people that will say all that, and that's not my stance today. But just because maybe it's not killing us doesn't mean that using it is always good for us. There are, in post-COVID, people are like really realizing how important human-to-human connection is versus just digital connection. And you want to have a balance within your home. And so having some planned time off, I think, would be just a great habit for you to maybe try to establish within your home, whether it's with kids or grandkids or whatever that would be. Having an open door policy and device transparency. You're like, oh, fancy terms, but what does that really mean? At any time, your child or spouse should be able to come to you and ask any question. Open door policy. Without the fear of just getting their face ripped off. Oh my goodness, you got involved in what? Your kid is seeking help. Be that help. And so sometimes we think, well, my goodness, I could not imagine if my child was involved communicating with strangers. You better hope that if your kid is communicating with strangers, they'd be willing to talk to you about it.
Amen.
Yes. So, oh my goodness, I hope, and we talked about OnlyFans in the last service, but I hope that if my spouse or if my child got involved in OnlyFans, that God would convict their heart and they would feel like I am willing to hear about it. Yes. I support them following God more than I support them having a perfect outward look. Mm-hmm. And so have an open door policy. Hey, let them ask questions. Hey, Dad, what is? Whatever, fill in the blank. What do I do about this? Hey, the kids at school asked if I was on a certain service, whatever it would be. It's okay for them to ask that. So have that open door policy. Second, device transparency. What does that mean? It means that, and unfortunately my daughter's sick, so my wife couldn't be here today. But it means that anytime my wife could have my phone, and there's not a code that she couldn't know. And at any time, I can pick her phone up off the couch, and I could look through messages, I could look through internet activity, and I could do whatever I want. Because what have I got to hide? And how would hiding anything honor God?
Right.
So have that device transparency. It's easy to set up. You have a conversation, and it doesn't mean that every time you leave the room you have to grab your phone. Huh. Just the ability to do that builds trust. Okay? And we'll talk about that more here in just a little bit. We're about to wrap up. Communicate what matters most. Your spouse and kids need to know that their safety is most important. Their relationship with God and you is most important. Well, what if they mess up? You don't want them to feel like they have to look perfect when in reality that's not the case. You want to help them, enable them to honor God with their lives. Lastly, be consistent and build trust. I've seen specifically dads, for whatever reason it's dads, sometimes it's moms, sometimes women are leaving the house in this way. But 1 month, we are cutting the TV bill, and kids play outside, and I'm locking the door, and we don't need any technology, and we don't whatever. And then it's like the next month, they're planning a family movie night. And I'm not against kids playing outside, and I'm not against family movie nights. But pick a side, people.
Guilty.
Be consistent. Like, hey, I mean, we're not going to be on social media because of this, and this. And then, man, COVID happened, and social media is how we connect with our church family. And I think that's great. But, like, it's one or the other. And so figure out what you feel like God wants for your family and be consistent with it. And be open, to things like this and to new ideas and new technology. And, this used to be dangerous, but now if we set up this, and this, it's safe. Okay? So be open to that, but be consistent. Because how are your kids supposed to know which mood you're going to be in about how you feel about, well, God uses technology, and oh my goodness, we learned from our missionaries on Instagram that they just had 30 people saved, and what an encouragement. And oh my goodness, the devil is using Instagram? Can you believe that the Kardashians are doing that? Be consistent. And when you're consistent about how you want to lead your family to honor God, it will build trust within your home. And so maybe that would be some practical knowledge for you. And last thing for this hour, and then we'll do just a little Q&A. Before we get to that, one other good habit I've seen. Good habit, and my family didn't think of it, told of it, whatever, until after I was an adult, but I have 2 younger brothers, and it worked great for them, is as part of their device transparency, all of their mobile devices would charge in the same place. So kids would not go to bed with their phone. At night, they would turn in their phones, and they had all the chargers right there. And, did you know that Walmart still sells alarm clocks? Okay. Do you know that this doesn't have to be your alarm clock? So just so that if anybody felt like, hey, I'm going to go through people's phones, and not in an accusation way, but just for device transparency, for accountability, they all charge in the same place. Maybe that would be something that'll help you. Anyways, we'll wrap up right here. What you don't want to do is what I would call blind trust. Blind trust. What does that mean? This person would never. My child would never. My spouse would never. Right? This wouldn't happen. They wouldn't. Let's say this. Blind trust is not accountability. Blind trust is not safety. Blind trust is the most likely way to get hurt. So you're like, Ryan, we have device transparency, but I never look through my spouse's phone. Well, we trust each other. Blindly, with no accountability to each other. People devastatingly get hurt that way. Set up some accountability within your home. And yes, your trust develops, but your trust develops with accountability between you, your spouse, and your kids. And with all of these things, you can be a household that communicates well and that honors God and that is involved in society, and you don't feel like you have to pull your kids out of everything around them and that you have to block off every single thing. But instead, you can communicate about it, and you can be a strong family of God. Set these things up in your house. Set these things up in your own life. Hey, Ryan, I'm single. What do I do? Just set up some accountability. A good friend, a pastor. Hey, here's what I've struggled with. Be willing to openly and honestly communicate. Hey, here's some things I could need help with. And that is I'm not going to say the greatest, but one of the greatest things about having a body of believers, a church family. That you can have those kinds of relationships to all encourage each other to follow God. So that's it for our Sunday school today. And we're going to talk about some of these other things in the worship service. But Pastor wanted me to have just like an open Q&A. And so if you want to maybe moderate or whatever you want to do for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Here's what I asked, if we could. We'll give everybody a chance to ask a question that wants to, and I know you're going to absolutely